God Almighty, thank you for bringing us together during this unprecedented and challenging time. We ask that as we move forward as a community into the next normal, you give us the strength, patience, and wisdom needed to overcome these trials and rise above the pandemic. We pray for our present-day heroes who are on the front lines fighting against the virus. Those who have become sick and those who have died, may they have eternal rest. For those of us who are holding on to hope, please give us the grace to never give up. Dearest God, heal our land. Amen.
Maayong hapon kanatong tanan, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the episode 4 of the second season of Rafi's Restart webinar series entitled Why Do You Need to Get the COVID-19 Vaccine? My name is Richard De Los Reyes, you can call me Chad, and I work for the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated, also known as Rafi. This Restart webinar series is aligned with Rafi's vision of touching people, shaping the future. We are still at this trying time, and we would like to commend you and your organization's efforts as we combat the COVID-19 vaccine or crisis in the Visayas. As one community, we join you in this fight as we in the RAFI or Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated support the Department of Health's campaign to raise awareness on how to prevent the spread of the disease through our ongoing information, education, and communication campaigns on various media channels like this webinar. Aligned with Rapi's communication campaign, Comunidad Contra COVID, that was launched last March 2020 at the onset of the pandemic, we aim to continue this awareness through collaboration with organizations to strengthen a more informed and engaged community, to strengthen a more community by addressing apprehensions on the COVID-19 vaccine and to further support the national vaccine program of the government. My dear viewers from all around Visayas, thank you for joining us. And yes, we are in the virtual platform. However, this will not stop us from connecting. Allow me to have a shout out to our participants in FB Live. Checking here in FB Live, kumusta na mo? To those who are watching us here, you can feel free to comment your name and from what organization, from what usa ang grupo ninyo. Would love to hear from you. Would love to also acknowledge you in this webinar. We have here from Malu and Sok. You have Ma'am Geraldine. Oh, paspas kay ato ang we have a very active audience this time, no, in our FB Live. So we have here from Jima Alves from DepEd Toledo. We have from Christine Boncha Cantabaco from Ubugon Elementary School. We also have Grace Kapangpangan Pipito from DepEd Region 7. We have Ma'am Christine Buncha Cantabaco from Ubugon Elementary School, District of Asturias, south of Cebu Province. We have Ma'am Donjins Loro from watching from Severo Duterte Memorial Elementary School, and then now from Danao City Division. Wow! Hello, maayong hapon sa taga Danao. We have from Baclayon District, Mount Floramin, Nalang. So we have around this time, around 1,800 participants joining us in this webinar. So I can really sense the connection. And I think in any kind of training, yes, virtual ta, I hope that we can imagine that we are in the same big hall. We will imagine that we are in the big auditorium, and you can give a hi and hello to your left and to your right. You can give a hi in front of you or at your back. No? So, well, imagine that we are learning as one community. And we are also live and cross-posted in DepEd Tayo Region 7 official page. And thank you to DepEd Region 7, led by Dr. Salustiano T. Jimenez, partnering with us in this webinar so we can help spread awareness about the vaccine. And thank you also to Dr. Tom Pastor and also to Dr. Rog, to Dr. Helio Villamor Jr. for being our very active and on-board coordinator for making this happen. And by the way, to all our DepEd leaders and teachers, school heads, nurses, medical personnel, please continue to share this link to your colleagues and to your family members and friends. And also join our partner for this webinar. We have from our other very active and on board partners from Mandawi City Private School Administrators Association or MOPSI. We have from Children's Paradise Montessori School, St. Paul College Foundation Incorporated, Cebu Disability Inclusive Disaster Risk Reduction Network, and we have from Alpha Caparo, including the international team, and then the APO Fraternity and Sorority. So thank you. So for all our partners and to those who haven't mentioned but very active in sharing the advocacy about COVID-19 vaccine, this will be our time. You have a time to share, to your friends, again, colleagues, and your family members. So what you need to do is just click the share or you just copy the link and share that to your GCs or to your friends. Or you can even have your, what do you call that, the sharing, no, in your own timeline. Okay, so I hope that you also have your water with you as we will have our session from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So now, thank God it's Friday. Yes, thank God it's Friday. Indeed, we are grateful and even hopeful. Hopeful, I love the word hopeful for this afternoon as the topic that we have is all about you. It's all about you. It's all about your family. It's all about your loved ones. It's all about the community because this topic is all about COVID-19 vaccine. And we will have two amazing speakers, credible speakers from the University of the Philippines Medical Alumni Society or UPMAS to talk about number one, science of vaccine. Unsa man gyud ning vaccine? What is really vaccine? Unsa man gyud dihang mechanism niya? That's number one. And second topic is all about to answer some of the frequently asked questions about COVID-19 vaccine. You know what, my dear viewers, we have reached around 20,000 registrants for this webinar, and the data that we have gathered help us craft for this session and even for our campaign against COVID-19. And to honor your effort and time to register, okay, we will also be announcing the raffle draw winners at the end of the session. So please ensure that you will stay tuned for the entire duration of the episode. So atong humanon then you can only claim your prize, okay, once you have proof for completing our session. So it's amazing. We are learning, we are getting understanding about the very relevant COVID-19 vaccine, and we still have the chance to win exciting prizes. That's the reason why you have now the time to continue informed. So currently we have 3,100 participants joining us in this webinar. So we are now expanding our audience, our auditorium to accommodate the 3,000 participants. Okay, so inhale and exhale. So be ready to also prepare your questions as we have allotted time for Q&A after the two speakers. So how do you drop your question? So you just write in the comment, put it in the comment section. And of course, if there's a lot of questions, we will try to accommodate all of them. We have our online engager both in Rafi and both in DepEd. No, you can feel free to drop there, and we will try again to communicate to accommodate all your questions. And equally important, especially for DepEd, that you can get your e-certificates, no, at the end of the session by answering the evaluation form. So please ensure that you will answer later at the end of the session the evaluation form that will be posted. No? So I think for all of our viewers from the academy, from DepEd, from private school, from the PWD to corporation, I think we have corporations, viewers from the corporate world, from the industry. We even have from the NGOs. So are you now excited? Handa na ba kayo for this webinar? I hope your answer is oo, syempre. Okay. So now for our first topic, as she talked about the science of vaccine. It is an honor to present to you our speaker. She graduated cum laude from UP Diliman with a Bachelor of Science in Biology before becoming a Doctor of Medicine at UP Manila College of Medicine. She completed her residency at Philippine General Hospital and currently serves as the head of the section of Pulmonary Medicine and Respiratory Therapy Unit at Vicente Soto Memorial Center here in Cebu City. She also teaches at and heads the research unit at Cebu Institute of Medicine while serving as the vice president of the Philippine College of Physicians Central Visayas chapter. She is quite busy, but we'd like to thank her very much for joining us in this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Maria Elena Pablo Villamor or Dr. Pen. Hi, Dr. Pen.
Hi, Richard. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I'd just like to share my screen from my end. So give me a minute, please. Okay, so okay. So I hope you can see my slides. Okay lang, Richard. Okay, thank you very much. Again, good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to all the listeners and viewers. It's really a pleasure for me to be here with you to share one of my personal advocacies. And I'm also quite overwhelmed by the number of participants in this webinar. No, I'm not used to addressing thousands of viewers. Okay, so I hope I can give justice to this topic. It's a very important topic. I tried my best to simplify it as much as I can. Okay, so before I proceed, I'd like to thank first, of course, the very active Rafi Foundation and its organizers for this very wonderful opportunity to present this. And to my colleague, of course, Dr. Myra Ocobilio, it is always an honor to share this platform with her. You'll hear from her later. So again, I'm Dr. Pen Villamor. So I'm a pulmonologist. Okay, so I'll be presenting to you to this afternoon the science, no, or the whys and hows of COVID vaccine. Okay, so I just like to make a few disclosures. As I said, I'm a medical doctor. I'm an internist, pulmonologist. But however, the opinions I express here are, of course, solely my own and cannot be construed as individual medical advice. And should you have any specific medical concern, of course, it's still best to consult your attending physician. Okay. So now I present to you this. You've seen this, of course, I'm sure in so many pictures, no, in the social media. This is the unseen enemy, no? It's the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So this is how it looks like under the microscope. Okay, it's a very, very small entity, no, but small as it is also quite terrible, no? But as you know, it already caused a pandemic the past year. So this virus belongs to a certain class of family of viruses called Coronaviridae. Coronaviridae family. So it's a coronavirus. Okay, it's called coronavirus because of its appearance. No, it has spikes, as you can see, yung mga red spikes makes appear as if it has a corona. That's why it's called like that. Okay, so it's similar to the causative agent of the severe acute respiratory syndrome that we had several years back, no, if you can recall. So we had that also, but fortunately that didn't become a pandemic. But this particular virus really wreaked havoc, no, all over the world. Okay. So that's how it looks like in the under the microscope. But the structure of the virus looks like this, no? Inside, no, inside it has so it has the spikes, no, the S1 and S2 subunit. Ito po yun, the spikes that you see, the red ones in the picture earlier. And there it has an envelope there and a membrane, okay? And then inside is a genetic material, okay? The genetic material is a single-stranded RNA. So it's like the one that codes, no, for the proteins that are needed by the virus to survive, okay? So why is it important for us to understand the structure? Because understanding the structure is very, very important because that we want to know how to fight this virus. Okay, so we have to understand how it attaches to our cell, no, what are the mechanisms involved, how it replicates, so that we can know how to stop it. So it's very important for us to understand the structure and how it attaches to our cells. Okay, so ito po yung structure niya. As I said, the spike protein is a very, very important structure. Why? Because it is the one that binds, it's a part of the virus that binds to our cells, to the receptors in our cells. Okay, so ito po siya at higher magnification, higher resolution. This is how the spike protein, it has a receptor binding domain. It is specifically the one that attaches to the receptor in our cells called the angiotensin converting enzyme receptor. So ang atong cells all over our body, no, specifically in certain areas like the lungs, no, daghan na silang angiotensin converting enzyme receptor, the ACE2 receptor. Okay? So ana mo attach ang virus. Okay? That's why maka-feel ang symptoms that we feel are sa respiratory tract kay daghan man tag receptor diha. Okay, so that's why mo attach diha ang virus. Okay, so the receptor binding domain, if you even make it the structure, no, that comprises the receptor binding domain is this, no, the receptor interaction site, mao ni siya ang green, and it has other parts, no, na glycosylated methylated pasabot ana na ay naka-attach diha na certain mga chemicals also. Okay, but what is really important is kaning green, kaning receptor interaction site, mao ni siya ang gitarget, no, gitarget nato sa atong mga antibodies. Antibodies are the substance, the what we produce in our body, no, mauna siya ang mupatay or mo-attack sa mga virus. Okay, so mo-produce ta ana when we get infected, and the antibodies particularly would like to attack this portion kasi the other parts, kaning glycosylated and methylated portions, are difficult to attack. Okay, so that's why i-attack ni siya kanina part para dili siya mo bind sa atong cells, so that it will prevent binding to our cells. Okay, pag di siya makabind ang virus sa atong cells, di sila kasulod, di sila ka-penetrate. So they will die. Okay, they will not be able to propagate because you know kaning mga viruses, they need live cells in order to propagate or reproduce. Kailangan makasud sila sa live cells sa humans, okay, so that they can reproduce. But if they don't get that, no, if they don't get to do that, no, they will die. Okay, they will die a natural death. Okay, so mauna siya, no, so we have to prevent the binding of the virus to our cells, and that is why we have to know how it binds. So it mauni siya ang gitarget gyud sa mga antibodies nato. Okay, so how is the virus transmitted? So we know by theory, no, before it was discussed already last year, this was already studied, okay, but still remains a theory up to now because it wasn't really that established for sure, no. But scientists thought na gikan ni siya sa bats because the kind of virus, no, that adenovirus that's causing the SARS-CoV-2 is similar to those that are found in bats. Okay, and they said that na intermediate host, mao ni siya ang pangolin, no, the scientific name man is Pendactylus Pendactyla, okay? So the pangolin, okay, diba, in China, and they thought that because of direct contact, no, it transferred to humans. Humans became the incidental host, okay? And it spread to other humans and caused the pandemic that we know of, okay? And how it spreads, okay? So we've already studied that also, okay? It's shown to have spread by droplet, okay? So pag mag-ubo, someone who is infected with SARS-CoV, if mag-ubo siya, and the particles, the droplets that get sprayed out, if it goes to the air and someone else inhales those droplets, they get infected. If the droplets fall into certain objects or surfaces and someone touches that surface, no, with the infected droplet, and that person gets to inhale by to the hand, no, sa mouth niya or any mucosal part, no, they can inhale also the droplets can go into the nose, into the mouth, okay? And studies also now showing also that it is also airborne, okay? Pasabot na it can stay longer in the air for quite some time and travel quite no, may distance, maka-travel siya distance that someone who goes inside the room where a person coughed and sprayed all those aerosols, pwede good na ma-inhale sa tao. Okay? That's why we're very, very careful. That's why we're doing all the infection control measures, no, the wearing of the mask, precisely para dito maka-inhale in case na ay virus particles there in the air. Okay, that's why mag-hand wash the pyramid. That's why para in case na naatay matouch na surface contains the droplets, no, ma-wash off, no, because it can really be killed by soap and water, simple soap and water, and of course alcohol. Okay. So what is the disease course of the virus, of the infection? No? So the SARS-CoV-2 virus causes what we know as a COVID-19 disease. Mauna siya ang gitawag sa disease. Okay? So estimate incubation period is around 1 to 14 days or 2 to 14 days. Pasabot, once you get infected, no, ma-incubate na siya in your body before you manifest the symptoms, and the manifestation can be arranged from 1 or 2 to 14 days, no, according to the World Health Organization. Okay, so the median incubation period being 5 days. So wala pa kayo ma-feel ani na time during the incubation period na na-infect na ka, and then the symptoms start to come out, no? So symptoms na ka, what are the symptoms? I'm sure you're all familiar with this, kanang hilanat, ubo, okay, myalgia, pamaol na feeling, kapoy, okay? And some would present with diarrhea, no? Magkalibanga sila, okay? So those are the usual symptoms we expect, no, if you have the COVID infection, if you get to be symptomatic. Okay, so naaman good cases na symptomatic ra, no, infected pero wala sila kaayo symptoms. No, mo depend man good na sa load of the virus that you are infected with. No, of course, the greater the load of the virus that you are infected with, the more you would expect that more reaction in your body and more symptoms would come out. Okay, so the first 5 to 10 days would be the acute mild phase. Unfortunately, in some instances, no, it would progress, no? Pwede siya mo grabe, okay? Into what we call the ARDS or acute respiratory distress syndrome. Mao ni siya ang makafeel na ang pasyente og kutas, no? Hangak, no, maglisod ginhawa, and manaog ang oxygen. Okay, so that's what we fear. That's what we don't want to get, no? Of course, di taganahan magka-COVID, no? But samot na di taganahan, grabe COVID. Okay, kasing grabing COVID, lisod yun siya i-manage. Okay, you have to be admitted, of course, in the hospital. Unya, tagaan gud kag mga pwede ka tagag oxygen in different levels, no? Kanang kung mild ra, oxygen na usual oxygen na nasal prong or the mask. But kung grabe gyud ni, kung worsen pag yun, no, or grabe kag mubong imong oxygen, you can get intubated, no? Pwede kang matubuhan o ma-connect sa machine, no? So, ang problema ana, once matubuhan, no, na grabe na klase na COVID, no, you can develop all the other complications, no? And daghan gid komplikasyon ang mga critical COVID. So, mahog na kag severe to critical ana if mangailangan na kag oxygen. Okay? So, of course, you don't want to get into that, diba? And then, may mga pasyente na okay ra, mild ra, then ma-recover. Okay? But unfortunately, there are certain percent nga, around 5% of cases who would go into the severe kind. Okay, and that's what we don't want to. Of experience. Okay, so mao ni siya akong pasabot ganiha no, how the virus binds into the cell, how it goes inside the cell. Okay, as I said, kaning virus kailangan gyud siya musud sa live cell para makareplicate siya. On its own di niya kaya. Okay, that's why mo invade gyud na siya, no? So this is the virus and it has the spike proteins. I showed this to you earlier. Mao na siya ang mo bind sa receptors, what we call the angiotensin converting enzyme receptor na present in our cells, like in the cells in our lungs, in the airways. Okay? So mobile na siya diha, musud gyud siya, mo penetrate gyud siya sa atohang cells, and iyang gamiton ang machinery sa atong cells inside no para makareplicate siya. Para makareplicate siya o maghimo siya copies, no? Copies of the RNA, ang iyang genetic material. Kay kaning genetic material, mauna siya ang nag-contain of information, okay, mura siya blueprint, okay, of information of the proteins that are needed to be produced, to be made, para makaporma gyud siya another virus. Okay? So, if naadihang information that it needs para makaporma gyud siya kanang envelope, kanang membrane, o other spike proteins, okay? And mao na siyang i-produce no inside the cell, gamiton gyud niya ang atuhang own what's inside our cell, no? And it will form its own several and it can cause actually destruction of our own cells tungod ana. Okay, pwedeng maguba gyud ang atong cells, and of course it will incite a lot of inflammation inside our body. Okay, so after that, so makaporma siya, magwas na siya sa cell. Okay, mao na siya ang life cycle of the virus. Attachment, penetration, and then it would replicate, biosynthesis, then the new viral particles are made, maturation, and they are released. Okay, but in the process, of course, mo react gyud ang atong body, and again, it can destroy our own cells. Okay, so mao na siya. How destructive it can be. So I'm showing you here a picture of the clinical presentation. I mentioned this, no? Fever, hilanat, headache. Okay, some would have hemoptysis, okay, magluwag dugo, usahay, no? Cough, okay, myalgia, mulag flu-like symptoms, okay, but unfortunately, some will develop the more complicated ones, no? Pneumonia, septic shock, mao ni siyang nikatag na infection na mumbu ang imong blood pressure, o renal failure, no? Pwede po siya makakause og problema sa imong kidneys, okay, and diarrhea. Okay? And this is what I'm talking about na kanang grabe no na damage sa atong lawas, okay? So kung ang ano man good ang virus no any foreign body ma-detect sa atuhang lawas, mo react gid ang atong body. That's why mag-fever ta, di ba? It's trying to kill the virus, okay? It's creating an inflammation, no? Grabe na inflammation inside, no? In our blood and in our other organs, para the point here is para mapatay nila ang virus, mapatay ang virus. Okay? But because of that severe inflammation, it can also cause damage to our own organs. Okay? Appeal diha, of course, our lungs, what I call the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Mauna siya ang tungod sa grabe ka inflammation inside, no? Inside the air sac sa atong baga, na maputi na gid atong baga. Later, I'll show you an example, a picture of that. Okay? Pwede po na siya mag-cause og hypercoagulable state, pasabot ana magka-clot ang atohang dugo, no? Nya ana na clot, delikado baya na kay if musod na siya sa atong heart, ma-heart attack ta, no? If musod na siya sa atong brain, ma-stroke ta. Nya if ang clot ana musod sa atong lungs, mag-pulmonary embolism ta. Pwede na siya makamatay. Okay? Hypercoagulable state tungod sa damage sa endothelium, tungod sa inflammation, okay? And all other, naghan pag good the other explanation ana, okay? But the point is it can cause clotting, okay? Established na gyud na, okay? And we don't want that to happen, okay? And combination of all those can also add to acute kidney injury, no? Pwede maguba ang atuhang kidneys, okay? Ma-dialysis, no, ang patient, okay? So ngano na ing ana due to the what we call the cytokine storm. Okay, cytokine is kanang mga products lagi sa atuhang lawas na mag-increase ang production. Ang purpose unta is to fight the virus. But tungod sa sobra ka inflammation, no, naasad siya epekto sa other parts of our body. So particularly cited here is the interleukin 6, no. That's why those patients na grabe na klase na COVID, no, katong grabe ka inflamed na nag-ARDS na sila and etc. Tagaan og anti-interleukin 6, okay? Or here sa Cebu we use tocilizumab, no? Kana siya na mahal kaayo na tambal, no? Kaabot og 40,000, okay? Because kana to combat the inflammation that's causing a lot of problems in our body, okay? So that's what we call cytokine release syndrome. It's an acute systemic inflammatory syndrome characterized by fever and multiple organ dysfunction. So many organs are affected, no? And I mentioned this microclots, those microvascular obstruction in the vessels, thromboinflammatory syndrome, no? Dali magkaklat, no? Atuhang blood, no? Hypercoagulable siya, dali magkaklat, ana. Okay? So we don't want that, right? Okay? And also, I want to show you, this is the x-ray of a patient with ARDS. These are actual patients, ha? Bago ra ni sila na-admit, okay? Sa amot ni silang pasyente sa Soto, okay? Here, example of how their x-rays look like. Supposedly, ang atong x-ray, ang atong lungs would appear black sa x-ray. Okay, kay itom man, tungod sa hangin man ang content sa atong baga, di ba? So dapat itom na siya. Okay, so this is the right lung, this is the left lung, and this is the heart, or kasing-kasing. It's white because it's solid, no? But, okay, as you can see here, wa na kakaayo makitang itom na part. Kanya, gamay na lang kaayo, no? But mostly are occupied by these white opacities, no? Kani, murag cotton appearance, okay? Mao na siyang appearance sa patient na naay ARDS, okay? The acute respiratory distress syndrome. And once you have that kind of x-ray, once you patient, no, makakita mi ing ana, makulbaan na gud mi, okay? Kaya, you know, it's really hard to pull them out, okay? Once we have that kind of condition. Okay, and the other patient here, this belongs to another patient, the one on your right. Same siya na acute respiratory distress syndrome. Grabe ka infiltrated ang iyang baga. Wala na kayo makita kaayo na puti diha, no, all white. Okay, but this patient is intubated. Kita ka, there's a tube here, no, na siya tubo, nakakonect siya sa ventilator. Unfortunately, this patient did not survive. Okay. Taas man good ang mortality rate, no, sa mga severe, critical especially na COVID, okay? And of course, di ba, who wants to die because of that COVID, okay? So how do we stop that, no? How do we prevent na maing-ana ta, na may severe, may critical COVID ta? Bisag ma-survive ninyo, no? Even if you survive critical COVID, kani sila mga patients na fortunate enough makasurvive, but they have lingering symptoms, no? Naa sila mga lingering, no, na symptoms na mag-ubo gihapon, na gihapoy kutas ng ana, kay naatay gi ano karon na there's a developing condition what we know as long COVID, okay? Na even after COVID, naa na gyud gihapoy ka ng effects sa imong lungs na long term. Okay? So, of course, we don't want that, di ba? So, how do we prevent ourselves from getting severe infection, severe COVID? Or how do we prevent ourselves from dying from COVID? Naan na my way to prevent, and that is by vaccination. Okay? So, I'm showing you here now the Swiss cheese model of pandemic defense. This is very nice. This was made by a virologist, no, named Ian McKay. Okay, so I'm sharing this to you because it's a nice analogy of our defenses, no, against the COVID infection, COVID pandemic defense. Okay, so as shown here, na ay mga personal responsibilities and shared responsibilities kita taganan common to all of us. Okay, so ang mga personal responsibilities na to, here mo belong the physical distancing. Okay, you stay home if you sick, no, you quarantine yourself, you isolate yourself, you're already symptomatic. Okay, mauna siya ang hand hygiene, cough etiquette. Okay, and if you have to go to a crowded place, you have to limit your time so that you lessen your exposure and exposing others as well. Okay, so mauna siya ang mga personal responsibilities that we have in each individual, no? Each one of us can do. Okay, but collectively, mauna ang atong mga shared responsibilities, no? We improve the ventilation, okay, as much as possible. We conduct activities outdoors, no, proper air institute proper air infiltration, quarantine and isolate if necessary. Okay? So these are, how do we do this? Ito ano dito, using masks, no? Also avoid touching your face, okay? Fast and sensitive testing and tracing. Of course, the government support, support of the NGOs like Rafi, okay? Doing all these information dissemination. And finally, the vaccines. Okay, so in these Swiss cheese models, you can see taken individually, lisod gyud na siya to prevent us from having to stop the vaccine, no? Or to prevent us from having the COVID infection. Okay, so it's hard for each individual step, okay, or each individual maneuver to stop the virus. Okay, but taken collectively, if you put them all together, okay, it will be a very, very good defense. Okay, so may naman good makover ang usa na di makover sa usa na kind of defense. So taking them all together, makover ta ng holes such that the virus cannot go through or cannot penetrate anymore. Okay? So mao na siya. So the vaccine is another layer of protection you can give yourself, no? For, of course, not just for yourself, but for the sake of your family and for the society at large, for the community. Because what we are really all aiming at is what we call the herd immunity. Okay? So herd immunity, I'm sure you've heard of this also, no? Mao ni siya ang what we call na enough people have already been vaccinated or immune na siya rather, no? Immune na mo to the infection such that di na ka maka-infect lain. Or if there is someone infected near you, di na ka dali matakdan because you're already immune. Okay? So, ang different diseases would have different levels of immune, different percentage of the population that has to be immune so for it to reach herd immunity. No? For example, sa measles, around 95% kailangan immune to achieve herd immunity. But na-control naman good nato ang measles, no, until several years back na nagkaroon ng some mini outbreak, no, but for a while it's been controlled, okay, diba? And polio, diba, it's said to have been controlled already, no. The herd immunity of polio is 80% dapat na immune of the population so that you can control the spread of the disease. Okay, so for COVID, of course, still under study, we're still trying to find out, no, kung unsa gyud ang level of herd immunity, the level of immunity that has to be reached. No, how many percent of the population have to be immune so that to say na controlled na ang pandemic. For as of now, we're in the process. No, we're slowly getting there, but we have started. Okay, so that's what we're really after. No, we want to achieve herd immunity kasi faster and safer way, no, which is through vaccination. Kasi kung we want to achieve herd immunity the natural way, pasabot is ma-infect na ka, magkasakit ka, would you want to wait for that na daghang tao ma-infect, na masakit, and mamatay, okay? Because we can die from COVID, di ba? Would you want that to happen before we reach herd immunity? Of course not. We want to reach herd immunity in a safer way na di kaayo taas ang mortality, no? Na safer, okay? So that's why we offer vaccination, okay? So, how do the vaccines work? So I gave you an idea already, di ba? So their antibodies, no, are produced in our body. If ever naagyod mo invade na virus diha or any pathogen, no, the body will try to fight it, no. So the antibodies, in particular for COVID, for SARS-CoV, would attack the spike proteins, no. So that's what they call neutralization, no. Kasi hindi na siya makapenetrate sa cells, na neutralize na siya. Okay, so that's what the vaccine developers want to produce, no, vaccines that can produce enough or generate enough, incite enough neutralizing antibodies para effective. Okay? So just showing you here, we can induce antibodies by infection or by vaccination. So vaccination man good, okay, we can choose particular makapili irata, no, what kind of parts of the virus to introduce in the body to produce what we need, no, the neutralizing antibodies enough na dili siya makakause og grabe na inflammation as an infection would cause. Okay? Kaysa infection, di ba, pwede man ka mo grabing inflammation, no, na grabe ang symptoms, okay? Whereas in vaccination, ang goal ra good is for your body to produce the antibodies enough to fight the infection without causing all those inflammatory, grabe na inflammation. Okay, of course, the vaccines can cause slight fever. Okay, sometimes but it's expected, no, because yun nga, your body is reacting. Okay, there. So we're all in the world witness the race to the production of antibody. You know, the studies, yes, and a lot of companies are trying to produce vaccines, diba? The studies are around 500 studies na nag-start sa bench, no, na mga in vitro studies, but a few only get into clinical trials, which means sa humans, no? Gamay ra gud diha ang pilion man good, no? Of course, you have to check the safety and efficacy before it can proceed to clinical trials. Okay, so these are the kinds of the main approaches in making a vaccine. So we have the whole virus. You can use the whole virus or parts of the virus that trigger the immune system, particularly ang spike protein, mao na siya, or just genetic material that is inside the virus, the RNA, okay, in this case, okay? So the whole microbe approach may use the inactivated vaccine, okay? And mao na ang pasabot ani, it's the whole virus, but it's dead, no? It's not active. It cannot replicate, no? But it can incite the formation of antibodies that is needed to fight future infection, okay? We also have this is the example of the flu vaccine, and we have the example of this COVID vaccine is the Sinovac, okay, vaccine. Then we have the live attenuated vaccine. This is a live vaccine but weakened version, no? Buhi pa siya pero hinay lang siya. Pero maka-elicit yun siya antibody response. But we don't have this kind of vaccine for COVID. Wala tayong ani. Examples ani are katong measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine or chickenpox vaccines. Okay? Then we have the viral vector vaccine. Mao ni siya ang the virus contains, it's another virus, pero dili pa siya pathogenic na virus, di siya kana makakos og sakit, pero it contains genetic material. Gi-inject diha ang genetic material of the virus, which can trigger the formation of immune response. No? Example, aning viral vector vaccine, mauna siya ang AstraZeneca, okay, na kind of vaccine. Okay, and the subunit approach, so it only uses very specific parts of virus, no? So kanang ang protein mismo ang gigamit, no? Nag-inject, no, to elicit the immune system. Okay? So this is the genetic approach. Nucleic acid vaccine ang gi-use the part of the virus that makes the proteins, so that describes the proteins. An example of this is katong Pfizer na vaccine, okay, or Moderna. Okay, so this is how it works, no? All of them, the different kinds, viral vector, mRNA, virus like particle, inactivated virus, ang purpose ana is to trigger an immune response, no? Para mo forma og antibody to fight future infection. Okay, so I'll go through this very quickly because I have only a few minutes left. So this is just a summary of all the vaccines available, no, in our country. So ito sa piece, this is taken from the Philippine Society of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, the website. You can download this, no. Example of it shows here the type of the vaccine for each brand, okay, the current status of the clinical trial, okay, and how it is given if the FDA already issued an emergency utilization approval, okay. So this also, the following table shows the adverse events that have been documented, okay, with the different types of brands of vaccines. So later in the Q&A, you can ask further questions if you have specific questions for each of the different kinds. Okay, and this one is taken from our DOH website. DOH is producing a lot of information, a lot of infographics, just really to help the public realize or know, okay, understand, okay, the different mechanisms and the different kinds of vaccines that we have. So it says here yung different kind of vaccine, tabulate here the platform, okay, the dose and frequency, storage requirements. You can see Pfizer has -80, very sub-zero, okay. The efficacy, okay. I just want to say, before I end, that the efficacy of all these viruses to prevent severe infection is 100%. Okay? So yun lang ang summary. Okay? Kasi iba-iba the different efficacy in the different stages, like in the symptoms niya and everything. But what I want you to remember is the efficacy against developing severe COVID, is really 100%, regardless of the kind or the brand. Okay? And the adverse effects are really generally, mostly, commonly mild. Okay, mild and tolerable. This is a screenshot taken from one of the Zoom webinars. I took a screenshot because it's nice showing here that there's undergoing study on the performance of the different vaccines versus the emerging strains, because this is one of the concerns also about what about the strains, may effect ba yung mga vaccine about that, so this undergoing study po sila. Okay, so they're trying to find out if they have, and some of the studies show promise, okay, that the vaccines can have activity against the emerging strains. Okay, so can I receive the vaccination? In the next lecture, Doc Myra will elaborate on this, but I just want to point out the only contraindication is history of anaphylaxis. It's a life-threatening allergic reaction to the vaccine. Okay, the others, itong severely weakened immune system, or you have a very low platelet count, subject to discussion with your doctor. The rest, if you have diabetes, cholesterol, hypertension, asthma, etc., okay, you may very well receive the vaccine. In fact, you should receive the vaccine. Okay, and this will be elaborated in the next lecture. Okay, so just I want to share with you, I had my vaccine. I completed my Sinovac vaccine last April. Okay, this is in Soto. And I want to encourage everybody, pabakuna ta. Okay, as a protection and a shared responsibility towards herd immunity. Okay, so with that, I'd like to end my talk, and I will be entertaining questions later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doc Pen. And I can even imagine, Doc Pen, na time will come. I have my own picture na nanakay bakuna. So I am still scheduled na ko next week. Hopefully, I receive na my notice for my vaccine. So I'm excited like you. I hope I have my own picture. And now, again, thank you very much, Doc Pen, Dr. Villamor, for that elaborated the discussion. I like how you also frame our sharing for this afternoon, that we start with going back to COVID-19 kay basi nakalimot na ta sa COVID-19, so we get to go back with how it transmitted, kung sa effect niya. And I think the highlight here is that it can possibly take a life. May it be, we don't like to happen to us, but there's that chance because of that COVID-19, and because of that possibility, because of that danger, we are not trying to combat the COVID-19. That's why we have a lot of protocols, masks. It was mentioned by Doc Pen of how it was also laid down. And the one thing that is also important as part of the component of combating the COVID-19 is the vaccine. And thank you, Doc Pen, for also elaborating the importance of the vaccine, of what is the science, how it will weaken or attack, or at some point address the COVID-19 in our body if there is. And I also like how you also assured us that it's 100% efficacy yung COVID-19 vaccine. And you also mentioned that all of us can take the vaccine except sa yung tatlo na na-mention about very weakened immune system. Number two is the low platelets, and then the other one is the anaphylaxis. Salamat. Naminaw dyan ko na, Doc. No, so these are only the three things that we need to consider, but the rest, for all of us, we are very open. No? We're invited to take the vaccine too. And now, as Doc Pen gave us a framework from the COVID-19 to vaccine, the next topic would be also more equally interesting as far as also understanding the value of the vaccine. And this will put more details, and this will put more answer to some of our frequently asked questions. And on that note, allow me to share to present our second resource speaker. She is an ophthalmologist and she studied in the University of the Philippines College of Medicine after being admitted to UP's highly selective integrated arts and medicine or NTAR-Med program as an oblation scholar. Dr. Ocobillo did her ophthalmology residency training and subspecialty training in cornea and external IDCs at the Philippine General Hospital and at Sydney Eye Hospital in Australia. Dr. Ocobillo received her master's in business administration from the University of the Philippines in Cebu and currently practices in Cebu at the University of Cebu Medical Center and is currently the training officer of the Department of Ophthalmology at Cebu Veles General Hospital, and she teaches at Cebu Institute of Medicine, UC School of Medicine, and Vicente Soto Memorial Medical Hospital. I'm very honored to also have Doc Mai because with our trainings with our BHW in Cebu City, she's one of our resource speakers. So please help me in welcoming our very supportive doctor, Dr. Myra Vita F. Ocobillo.
Mahigit isang taon na tayong nakikipagbuno sa pandemya. Ngunit hanggang ngayon ay patuloy pa rin tayong hinahamon ng COVID. Higit sa 1 milyong Pilipino na ang nagkasakit ng COVID. Pinakamataas sa Southeast Asia. Huwag pangunahan ng takot. May sagot tayo dyan. Alam kong gusto mong maging bahagi ng solusyon. Maliban sa patuloy na pag-obserba sa pagsuot ng face mask at face shield ng maayos, paghuhugas ng kamay, at pagpapanatili ng physical distancing, may iba pang paraan upang masugpo ang virus. Bakuna! Ang bakuna laban sa COVID ay sadyang ginawa para tulungan ang ating katawan na lumaban sa virus. Pagkaturok ng bakuna, unti-unting gumagawa ang ating katawan ng tinatawag na antibodies upang labanan. At sa kalaunan ay mapigilan ang virus na makakapinsala sa ating katawan. Mas listo ngayon ang ating mga katawan sa pagharap sa COVID. I have a question. Ligtas ba ang bakuna? Oo, ligtas ang bakuna. Sa paggawa ng mga bakuna laban sa anumang karamdaman, ang kaligtasan o safety nito ay binibigyang halaga ng mga scientists at mananaliksik. Ito ay dumaan sa matinding proseso ng pagsusuri bago pa man maaprobahang magamit sa iyo at sa akin. Ika nga, dumaan sa butas ng karayom. Sa ngayon, wala pang naitatalang reaksyon na di maganda na direktang maiuugnay sa bagong bakuna. Wait lang, so may side effects ang bakuna? True, may side effects sa ilan. Lahat ng bakuna actually may side effect. May ilang nabakunahan na maaaring magkaroon ng mga sintomas tulad ng lagnat, pananamlay o pananakit ng katawan. Maaaring magsilbi itong pahiwatig na nagkumpisa ng gumawa ng antibodies ang katawan mo. Mawawala rin ito makalipas ang ilang araw. Kung ito'y manatili, huwag mag-atubiling sumangguni sa doktor. Isa pang tanong, may mga tao daw na nagpopositibo sa swab test matapos mabakunahan? Totoo ba ito? Dahil siguro ito sa bakuna. Ang sagot, of course not. Wala sa alinmang mga aprobadong bakuna ang magreresulta sa positive na swab test matapos na ito'y matanggap. Kung sakaling magpositibo man, ito marahil ay dahil na-expose at nahawaan na siya bago pa man mabakunahan. Pwede pang magpatanong, may high blood ako at diabetes. Ako, may hika pa ako. Pwede ba ako mabakunahan? Sure, pwedeng-pwede. Ang wish nga natin ay maproteksyonan ang mga taong may edad at mga may sakit o comorbidities. Sila kasi ang at risk na madapuan ng mas grabing karamdaman, mas malalang mga komplikasyon, at mas mataas na tsansang pumanaw dahil sa COVID. May iilang mga karamdaman lamang na nire-rekomendang manghingi ng medical clearance mula sa inyong doktor. At wala sa listahan na ito ang high blood, diabetes o hika. Uy! Narinig nyo ba sa ibang bansa, hindi na raw sila kinakailangang mag-mask pag nasa labas? Ang dami na rin kasi sa kanila ang nabakunahan na. Ang mga anak nila nagbabalikan na sa school. Wala nang synchronous, asynchronous, online. Ang PE nila, PE talaga. Hindi yung pa-stretching sa harap ng computer. Mantakin mo yun. Sa pagbabakuna kasi, mabibigyan din natin ng proteksyon ang mga taong hindi pa maaaring mabakunahan laban sa COVID. Tulad ng mga bata, mga anak natin. Naaalala mo pa ba yung pakiramdam na mag-exercise na hindi ka hapos sa mask? Yung humihigop ka ng milk tea nang walang binababang mask. Yung makita ang ngiti ng mga mahal mo sa buhay. Sarap nun! Yun din naman ang gusto mo, di ba? Kaya din natin yan, kabayan. Suot-suot lang ng face mask at face shield, yung maayos na pagsuot Physical distancing pa rin. Stay home kung wala namang mahalagang lakad. Sabi nga nila, nasa ating mga kamay yan. Or in this case, nasa ating mga braso. Kaya, magpabakuna tayong lahat.
Good afternoon. I have the easier job actually, no? Si Dr. Pen Villamor, ako yung gihangyo na please explain to them COVID, no? Kay if wala ka nagtrabaho sa hospital, then wala kayo kaila na naigo, you might think it's a very easy to deal with na disease ba. For most people, no, yes, but there is a significant number of people manggod who die. And that's the thing that we want to prevent. So, disclosures, I am a medical doctor. I'm actually an eye doctor, no? So I'm an ophthalmologist, but I teach a lot. So I was thinking that if I can just make people understand about COVID and the vaccines, the way I make my patients understand that blindness due to glaucoma or diabetes is preventable, not death due to COVID is preventable, then we will have accomplished a lot. That's the goal of this webinar. So like Dr. Penn said, opinions expressed here are solely my own, cannot be construed as individual medical advice. If you have particular concerns, please consult your doctor. So this is my nightmare. Why I like to talk about the COVID vaccines to many people, because I don't want this to happen to us. Maugay akong kikahadlukan. When in last year in Europe, no, patients were being turned away kay puno na ang mga hospitals, and then nahitabo in March, April sa NCR, nahitabo ni hadlok yun ko na mahitabo ni sa ato. Now, to help with the NCR outbreak, there are several alumni, PGH alumni and UP College of Medicine alumni who worked doing teleconsult. And this is the thing that I encountered, even as an eye doctor, I had to help take care of patients with pneumonia. Kini siyang pasyente na ni contact sa PGH Telegabay Facebook page. Medyo kahilokon yun siya nung ako siyang gistoryahan. Kaya ang iyang papa namatay April 27. Dahil karon May 4 naglisod ng ginhawa yang mama. So if people just understood how severe COVID can get, then we would really work hard to get ourselves protected. And like Dr. Penn said earlier, the vaccine is very important. It's one of those things that we have to do to get ourselves adequately protected. So kay ba man ta na daghan naman gyud ang namatay sa COVID. Lapas na gyud 3.5 million, moabot yun ni, for sure, moabot yun ni 4 million. Dili na nato ganahan madugangan, pero unsa man, medyo naningkamot pa man gyud sa karon about the vaccination. The last time we had a pandemic in the world, that was the Spanish flu in year 1918, 1919, and there were no vaccines then, so people had to get their natural immunization, no, by getting the disease. Niabot og 50 million ang namatay. Mao dili gyud nato ganahan na mahitabo. So kung hadlok ta na tingalig mamatay ta sa bakuna, moingon gyud ko, wala pag yoy nakita na namatay tungod sa bakuna. Pero daghan ng tao na namatay tungod sa COVID. So, tanaw ko sa DOH website kanina, lapas-lapas na gyud tag 1.2 million, taas gihapon ang mga new cases nato. So, we know most of these are in NCR, no, sa Region 7, Central Visayas, not so bad right now, but Western Visayas, no, getting its surge, no. And we know that Western Visayas is only a body of water away. If there's one advantage siguro diri sa Pilipinas na archipelago gyud ta, lisod kayo mag-travel because you have to go by boat or by air. But the different provinces cannot stay closed forever. We will eventually have to reopen. So ang goal nato na unta, before we reopen, we get as many people vaccinated as we can so that we can reopen safely. So, diri sa Central Visayas, mo point out lang ko, medyo ng February, hadlok-hadlok baya gid mi. No, na nagkataas gid, nabantayan gid namo sa mga emergency room diri sa Cebu, nagkapuno-puno na sad, may na lang medyo naubos, no? Ang mga healthcare workers na bakunahan, then hinay-hinay ang mga A2, A3, mga seniors o may mga sakit na bakunahan, hinay-hinay, no? Medyo na-control yung surge, na-control yung mga hospitalizations. But again, let us remember that right now we are relatively closed and we don't plan to stay closed forever. So kadaghanan yun sa mga tao na may COVID, mag-ayo. No? So there's a good percentage that get better. Maingon niya mo na gamay raman day ang mamatay. One death for me is masakit, but some people might think gamay raman day ang mamatay. That is with medical intervention ha. Kaya kung wala tayo buhat, kanang mga tao na mag-severe COVID or even those with moderate COVID, taas ang porsyento sa ila mamatay. Except nga, they need to go to the hospital and then there they are given medical treatment so they get better. And that medical treatment costs. I wish you knew how much it costs. Medyo sakit gid sa bulsa. So ngano man giuna natong pabakunahan ang mga tiguwang. Okay? Kay naman gyud mag-ingon na tiguwang naman po, di naman ko kinahanglan pakunahan. Ngano gitug unahon nato sila kay sila gyud ang pinaka at risk. No, compare nato sa reference group nato 5 to 17 years old. Matan-aw nato na yung risk of hospitalization and death taas gyud, anam-anam nagtataas as we get older. Okay? So I will say, no, for myself, I wasn't so scared at the start of the vaccine. But I have an 82-year-old mother I live with. So I am scared for her. Simba ko na mahitabo taon sa akong mama, unsa naman lang akong isulti sa akong mga igsuon na wala diri sa Cebu. So mao na siya. We have to get the elderly vaccinated so that we can protect them from getting severe disease, being hospitalized, and putting them at risk for death. And then ang mga underlying medical conditions, mga comorbidities. Kaya naman yung maingon, naman ko'y hubak, naman ko'y high blood, sakit-sakit man akong kidney, taon. Mao lagi ka unahon og bakuna tungod kay naa kay sakit. So at risk ka, ikaw ang naa sa A3 group for a reason. You're at higher risk of getting severe COVID. So sa CDC website, makita ni siya. The DOH actually has its own list, which we will show later on. So, kanang mga nay heart conditions, nay hubak, nay diabetes, smokers, no, na stroke ni adto, okay? Kina sila, pwede yun na silang bakunahan and dapat yun na silang bakunahan. Okay? These are a list of other comorbidities. So, naman ni sa listahan sa CDC, nasa ni sa listahan sa DOH. So, again, usbon ng nakadali raman gud timan-an, kinsabay kinahanglan yun unahon natong bakuna. Giuna mi na healthcare workers kay simbako magkasakit mi kinsa may mag-atuman sa inyo. Okay. I feel very lucky to have gotten the vaccine on the first week it was available here in the Philippines. So namurag yun ko na naibdan yun og tunok. Okay? But I want everyone to feel as protected. No? Giuna lang nato ang mga at-risk na population. So, usbo nato ang masakiton, mga elderly o mga laing sakit, tungod kay sila man ang pinaka at risk na getting severe disease. So mentioned by Dr. Pen kanina, you will get the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, through the nose and through the mouth. Mao, very important that we wear the mask properly, na tabunan yun nato ang ilong ug baba. There's a small percentage that you can get through the eyes, but mostly nose and mouth din siya. So kung bakunahan ka na dili ibutang ang bakuna, you will not get COVID. You will not get the disease. Okay? So ang sulod sa bakuna gi-injection diri, no, is inactivated virus or part of the virus. Okay? What they do is that they tickle your immune system, mura kag motorsiklo na imong gi-kickstart, no? Para magkaroon ng sundalo, mga gitawag natong antibodies, kini mga green. So that simbako, unya, maigo ka sa tinuod yun na virus, imong nasingkot, okay? Makasuod sa imong lawas, at least na nakay sundalo daan na mo fight sa coronavirus. And then, unta ang imong sakit, dili na kaayo serious, dili mo abot og severe. This time last year, to be honest, I was not very optimistic na magkakaroon ta ng bakuna dayon. Okay? Kasi usually, magud, it takes several years. So, siguro sa maayo natong ampo gyud sa Orasio Imperata, no, hay salamat nagkabakuna na. Dili ni siya gidali-dali, ha? The way I explain it, man good, is if you have a rare disease, okay, then syempre you need several years of studying that disease to know more about it. Pero nagpandemya man ta, daghan mang tao na COVID, so nasudyuhan yun siya og maayo. And the more people study it, the more materials are produced, the more studies are produced, the more evidence you can review, then you can work to get treatment, you can work to get vaccines. And sige, example na ko ani is kung magpabuhat tag balay di, kinsa may unang mahuman og pabuhat og balay, ang tao na naay kwarta or ang tao na walay kwarta. So, syempre, maunang pabuhat ang mga tao na naay kwarta kasi they threw money at this thing, they threw money at this disease, gistudyuhan gid maayo, daghang kayong scientists nag-hire, the companies are working together, so they got the vaccine. Then, mentioned by Dr. Pen, out of the many vaccines that were started, gamay lang ang nipasa. And then, katong mga gipasa, mao na gigamit nato worldwide. So, wala ni anyan ha, idali-dali ang pagbuhat sa bakuna. Gisudyuhan ginig maayo. So, as the video said, dumaan sa butas ng karayom yung pag-study nitong mga bakunang to. So, tungod kay nanatay bakuna karon, lagi close to 100% yun. We are able to prevent severe infection, hospitalization, and death. At the start of the vaccine rollout, maogi atong goal, prevention of severe infection, hospitalization, and death. And then later on, as studies nanggawas, no, then we have more proof na, medyo mapugngan di ay ang mga sintomas sa infection. medyo mapungan din ang pagkalat kay ni gamay man ang mga tao na na-admit para sa COVID, ni gamay ang mga nag-positive sa COVID. So, dili ni siya close to 100% kaayo for all the vaccines, pero at least nakita na nato gyud na ebidensya na nakatabang yun not just for prevention of hospitalization, severe infection, and death, but also to reduce symptomatic disease and disease transmission. So all the evidence since the vaccine rollout started, very, very nice. Maayo yun. Now, this is the thing that Dr. Penn mentioned earlier, and I really want to explain well. Sa karon man good, sige, daghan naming healthcare workers na bakunahan. Medyo gamay-gamay pa ang mga tiguang na nabakunahan. Medyo gamay-gamay pa ang mga may sakit, ang mga masakiton na nabakunahan. Nya, kinahanglan man daghan tang mabakunahan kay ngano. Okay. Tanawa ning naa sa left no na figure na ay tulura ka tao na nabakunahan, kana sila ang yellow, and then daghan ang wala pa nabakunaha, manabakuna, blue sila, no? And then let's imagine, mag-reopen ang Cebu. Na ay visitor, gikan sa gawas, na magdaog sakit to our community. Ang mahitabo is mudaghan ang pagkatag sa virus, mudaghan ang maging masakiton. Sige, the 3 people who were initially vaccinated are still healthy, pero ang uban na wala na bakunahan, nagkasakit, no? Gamay lang ang nagstay healthy na blue. Whereas, if we look at this picture on the right, no, kung daghan tang nabakunahan, so we're aiming for 70% herd immunity. Kung daghan tang nabakunahan, gamay lang ang wala pa nabakunahan, if a visitor who is infected comes to our community, then the disease, the infection does not spread as much. Gamay lang ang matakdan. Tungod kay daghan tang nabakunahan. Kana ang dakong benepisyo sa pagpapabakuna. Kung daghan tang magpabakuna, ma-feel gyud nato ning effect aning herd immunity. So kinahanglan gyud daghan gyud tang magpabakuna. Kung dili lang ni hit ang vaccines, then unta kitang tanan magpabakuna, no? Pero tungod kay ni hit man, sumagi una lagi ang A1, A2, A3, pero karon mag-ablim naman siya for A4, karong June, mag-ablim naman siya for A4. So kung mga teachers, tanang wala gatrabaho sa balay, o di kamo non-medical frontliners, mabakunahan na gyud mo. So unta, ready na mo sa pagdawat sa bakuna. Because really, it is not just protection for ourselves, but it is also protection for our community. So kinsa may dili pagyud pwede bakunahan. So very, very strict, and this is the one thing that will not change, is severe allergy pagkahuman sa first dose. So tanawa na sa right, severe allergy pagkahuman sa first dose. Unsa man ang severe allergy? Kanang maglisod gyud kag ginhawa ba? Dili gyud kanang gamay-gamay na katulang ha. Kanang kinahanglan gyud na maglisod gyud kag ginhawa shortly after nakadawat ka sa first dose. So kinahanglan di ay matagaan kag first dose para makahibaw ka na naa kay severe allergy ana. Yes. Okay? Yes, you have to receive the first dose to know if you will develop severe allergy to the first dose. And if you do, no, then there are other things that we can do for you to get you protected. But you have to get that first dose. Kinsa man ni sa ubos ang nangamanay allergy sa polysorbate, polyethylene glycol, unsa ba na sila? Kana ang mga components, mga sagol sa bakuna. Now, they are not uncommon. You will actually find them in different things like cosmetics, no, some eye drops, and they're not uncommon. So if you have allergy, severe allergy, I think I missed a word there, na kay severe allergy ang mga butang, you probably have an allergologist taking care of you already. Okay? So gamay ra gyud di ay ang dili pwede bakunahan. Now let's talk about this age limit. Ngano man kinahanglan yun mo abot yun kag 18 years old before ka mabakunahan. Tungod kay with any new drug or any new vaccine, the study population, and there are many studies, no? Ang initial studies ana buhaton gyud na in a healthy population of adults. So 18 to 59 years old usually. So we don't usually test on kids, okay? But since the vaccines have been massively rolled out, there are new studies being produced and there are new results coming in. So in other countries like the US, Singapore, it's actually allowed now for people as young as 12 years old to get vaccinated. Pero sa karon, tungod kay nihit lagi atong bakuna, unya na lang bakunahan ang mga mas batanon. Remember the chart that I showed earlier na yung hospitalization and death rate in the different ages. So obviously medyo ligon-ligon pa ning mga batanon. So unya na lang sila magpabakuna. Tungod kay nihit lagi. So kinsa may pwede man bakunahan pero dili pa sa karon. So very strict kami na kanang mga mabdos in the first 3 months ayaw sa pabakuna. Okay? For the same reason that we don't vaccinate kids. Okay? We don't do tests on mothers, pregnant mothers in their first trimester. We don't do tests on them. And we know that during that critical period, develop pa ang fetus sa iyang mga vital organs sa sulod sa womb sa mother. So dili lang ta magpabakuna sa until moabot og second or third trimester. Now, especially if healthcare worker ka, dahil medyo exposed ka, huwaton lang yun ang first trimester. Kining mga nabakunahan sa niaging 2 weeks, ngano man dili sila bakunahan. Okay. It's not because the vaccine will be less effective. Gipahuwat ta og 2 weeks sa DOH tungod kay kung simba ko makadevelop ka og side effects. Dahil duhaman ka bakuna imong nadawat, kinsa may imong pasanginlan. So for monitoring purposes, gikuan nato na usa-usa lang sa ang pagdawat og bakuna. Makadawat ka na sa, for example, flu or rabies or tetanus shot or whatever, huwat lang og 2 weeks before you get your COVID vaccine. Okay. Let's talk about these people on the right. Kining exposed sa COVID o mga na-symptoms na pwedeng COVID. So, ubusipon, hilanat, and all that. Diba? Pag naman kay sakit or naka-exposure, dapat i-quarantine man ka or i-isolate ka. Ayaw gawa sa imong balay. Ayaw palihog og adto sa vaccination center kay tingalig makatakod pa ka sa uban. So mahatagan man gihapon tag bakuna pero ayaw lang sa karon kay peligro sa ubang tao. Okay. Kinsa man ni mga nakadawat og plasma or monoclonal antibodies ngano pahuwaton man gyud og 3 months. So kini sila ang mga special group of patients who develop severe COVID and receive this very special treatment. So not everyone who gets admitted for COVID receives this treatment, but kung ikaw gitagaan ka sa imong doktor o gingana tungod kay nagka-severe COVID ka, then pahuwaton lang kag 3 ka bulan. Pagsugod sa vaccination rollout man good, the 90-day waiting period was given for all patients who develop COVID. Pero sa karon, tungod kay nalagi mga variants that were mentioned earlier, and then na may ebidensya that getting vaccinated actually strengthens your immune system, no? Strengthens, makes your antibody levels more robust. Okay, so karon basta naka-recover na kagikan sa COVID, sige, pwede na kagpabakuna, di nakapahuwaton. So gamay ra gyud ay no ang dili kinahanglan, dili gyud pwede bakunahan. So again, very, very strict. Usbon lang nako. Severe allergy to the first dose or to the components of the vaccine. Sa karon, ang mga bata, dili pa. Ang mga mabdos sa first trimester. Ang mga COVID suspect tungod kay na sila sintomas or na-expose sila o mga nakadawat sa plasma or monoclonal antibodies. So, nasa usara gid kakamot ang dili pwede bakunahan. So, if you're not on that list, pwede kang bakunahan kahit ano pa yung ibang sakit mo if you're not on that list. But, na yung mga tao ng inahanglan og medical clearance. So, these are people with immune system problems for whatever reason. So, kanang mga gainom og steroid, okay, kay ma-down na ng ilang immune system. Usually, you are given oral steroids tungod kay naa kay autoimmune disease. So, you are under the care of an internist or a rheumatologist. Kining mga nakadawat og organ transplant, no? Kidney, heart, lungs, liver, no? Ang mga mata, this is new, I do corneal transplant, okay lang, no? But yung mga giinom na tambal para ma-down ilang immune system, dili ma-reject ang ilang organs. So, kini manginahanglan kag medical clearance from your doctor. Cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy, so being actively treated. So, makapadaan man gud na sa immune system, no? Makapadaan sa white blood cell levels ang chemotherapy. So, dili lang sa get a medical clearance from your oncologist or your cancer doctor. Ang patients na HIV, no? Whose white blood cell count may be really down, also immunocompromised sila o mga bedridden patients na lisod sa dadon sa vaccination center. So, strictly speaking, kinirag yun ang mga manginahanglan o medical clearance. Okay? Ang uban na naisakit, dili man yun kinahanglan og medical clearance, pero makatabang kung naamoy medical certificate, especially kung dili mo kahinumdum taon sa unsa may inyong sakit, unsa may inyong mga tambal para ana. We, as the screening doctors in the vaccination center, want to make sure you are healthy enough to undergo vaccination. And part of being healthy unta is having regular checkup if naakay sakit, taking your medicine, taking your maintenance medications kung naakay sakit. So palihog, ayaw taon ihunong ha, kay nakoy na dunggan na kinahanglan ko nung ihuno ang maintenance medication for 1 to 2 days, ayaw palihog, i-continue lang yun. So, dili man kinahanglan magdugang og tambal para lang sa bakuna, pero kinahanglan ta kung nanatay maintenance daan, tumaron yun nato. Sige. So, kung mabakunahan ta, unsa may atong mga posibleng reaction sa bakuna. So, ang most common yun, ana, is wala kayo bation. Most common. And then, after that, kung naibation man, mild na kaayo. Medyo sakit diri, no? Kay injection lagi, maghubag-hubag gamay, naun sa may atong pwedeng buhaton para ana. Magbutang tag cold compress. Okay? Para maus-us ang hubag. I-exercise nato gamay ang atong kamot, no? Ang atong arm, lihok-lihok. Para dili kayong mirugbugat. Okay? De, pero kung sakit yun kaayo, pwede man tamo tumartaon og paracetamol. Okay? And then, kung hilanat, kung hilantanon ta, paglabad atong ulo, magsakit atong lawas, no? Usually, madara man na sa pahuway for 1 to 2 days and then mawala raman. Pero kung maglisod yun ka, taon, ayaw antos pag tumarog paracetamol, ibuprofen, or unsa man imong favorite na pain reliever, makatabang yun na siya. Na I don't think anyone in this audience is afraid man taon sa paracetamol, di ba? So, dili ta kinahanglan mahadlok sa mga possible reactions sa bakuna. Okay. So, just to get people familiar with the vaccination flow so you know what to expect, it is expected na nag-pre-register na mo sa inyong LGU or sa inyong kumpanya, sa inyong school. Whoever facilitated that, thank you. Pero moabot mo sa vaccination center, syempre magdamog ID para mailhan na kamog yun na, magpirma mo og consent forms, and then step 2, mag vital signs, tingali, no, mag-history to make sure that you are healthy enough to undergo vaccination. Sa tinuod lang, kung kaya ninyong maglakad, kaya ninyong mabakunahan. Okay ra gyud kaayo. The shortest, but maybe for some, the scariest part of the vaccination is the vaccination. Nga no hadlok man, kay hadlok data sa karayong, dili lang tamo amin, no? Hadlok ta niya, kadyot raman gid kaayo ang karayom. So, ana, count ka 1001, 1002, 1003, kay nag-injection pa man, and then, okay, gawas. Ang makapadugay sa vaccination process is kanang nag-picture taking. Sa tinuod lang, mao'y nakapadugay. But okay ra na, kay we want people to get used to the vaccination man. And then, for reasons that I will explain, the most important and longest step is the monitoring. You have to wait for 15 to 30 minutes in the vaccination center for the doctors to check that you do not develop severe side effects, gitawag natong anaphylaxis, no? Na dili mo kotasan, dili mo maglisod og ginhawa before mo mulakaw from the vaccination center. And then before you go home, tagaan mo vaccination card. Unsa may nakasuwat dito aside from your name and your identifiers, no? Mupirma ang nagbakuna sa inyo, kung sa may gihatag sa inyong bakuna, and then most important, please pay attention to it, ang hotline number na pwede nimong tawagan kung naa kay gibati na dili nindot na nakauli na ka. So nakasuwat na sa vaccination card, nakapost sa vaccination center. So take note of that hotline number. So di na ta mahadlok na tingalig na mahitabo sa ato unsa may atong buhaton. Tawag sa hotline number. Then kung wala pag yun mo salig sa hotline number o di adto mo sa public hospital para explain sa inyo unsa may inyong gibati. And then also in the vaccination card, tagaan man mo schedule for your second dose. So very important, please show up for your second dose kay dili kompleto ang bakuna kung dili nimo madawat ang imong second dose. Okay? And then because kay bound ka, gamay raman pa sa ato ang nabakunahan, sa karon only 3.7% of Filipinos have received their first dose, only 1.1% have received their second dose. Okay? Daghan pa kayong wala pa nabakunahan. Let us continue to maintain minimum public health standards. So, sulubon nato og tarong ang face mask, ang face shield. Let us maintain good airflow. Let us maintain hand hygiene ug magdistansya lang gid sa karon, no? Dili ta magtapok-tapok. Okay? So mga lunch breaks na uban-uban, ayaw lang sa gid, ayaw lang gid ta. Now, if you want to review the things that I said, you can really go to the DOH website, and also I will point out this website by the Philippine Society of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, www.psaai.org. They also have a Facebook page. Gibuhat gid nilang Bisaya para mabasahan gid nato, no? Na ang mga nay allergy di ay, no? Okay ra gyud bakunahan, no? Dayon gabantay lang gyud ta kung naagyo history of severe na allergic reaction na paspas gid kaayo. Then sila okay, dili pwede hatagan. Kung dili gyud ta kumpiyansa, no? Watay salig o di magpakonsulta ta sa atong doktor, magpatan-aw sa allergologist, okay ra gyud kaayo. And then basta sa human man sa bakuna, obserbahan man gyud mo to make sure that you are okay. Okay? And then we talked about the side effects earlier. Sige, kung hadlok mo sa paracetamol, makasabot ko tingali, pero wo man tingali hadlok taon sa paracetamol, no? Yun. And then among ihangyo ha, ayaw mo tumar og pain reliever thinking that you might develop pain, you might develop fever, no? Don't take the medicines before the vaccination. You can take them afterwards, but not before. Same sa anti-allergy, kanang mga nahadlok, no, na tingalig allergy ko, ayaw mo tumarta og anti-allergy na tambal before the vaccination. Ha, kay ganahan ta na ma-monitor mo lagi og maayo, dayon dili matago kung naamoy simptomas taon sa allergy. Okay? So ayaw pagtumardaan. Pero pwede mo magtumar after. And then simba ko nagid kay bation na anaphylaxis katong severe allergy. Kining tambal na epinephrine naagyod na sa tanang vaccination center. So pwede gyud nang ihatag sa imo. And then naapay 4 to 6 hours before ka madala sa ospital. So dili man kaayo hadlok, no? Pero wa man sa tingali mo abot og 4 to 6 hours before ka dadun sa ospital. Kung nagid kay gibati, nang matagaan gid kag tambal dayon, and then madaka sa hospital for further care. Ayaw kahadlok. Worst case scenario, but really very rare. Okay, just to repeat, kinsa may mga priorities sa karon. So we've been vaccinating A1 to 3. For a while now, A4 really will be vaccinated karong June. And then you can see this list of comorbidities sa DOH website o sa ilang Facebook page. And then again, no, I expect most of you are in the A4 category. I'm excited for you. I hope you feel the same protection that I have, no, that I really feel that ay salamat, no, natangtangan dito pug tunok. Okay, so if you have any questions.
Hi, Doc Pai. Thank you very much for that topic, and I think that is really practical, no, to understand better even sa process nato for the vaccination. So this would be the right time for us to also invite Doc Pen and Doc Mai to have our Q&A portion. Okay, so we also encourage our viewers here to really comment to write your question in the comment section for us to address your questions. And glad Doc Maya and Doc Pen, we're very happy because we have active viewers and they already sent to us a question. So first question that we have right now is situation ni siya Doc Maya and Doc Pen. I recently have birth via CS and nag-bleeding ko. Nadungagan ko og one bag. Pag-repeat og CBC low gihapon akong hemoglobin -9 to be exact. Is it safe for me to get vaccinated, or is there a particular vaccine for people like me?
Can I take that?
Yes,
Doc
of course.
Mai?
Yeah, yes, Ben.
Oo. So, ang concern ni ma'am is na cesarean siya niya. I assume that the anemia is due to after the cesarean, no? Kay mag-blood loss man ka during giving birth. Okay? Unless naapa siya laing problema sa ano, no? Pero anyway, it's not a contraindication, no? Anemia is not a contraindication for vaccination, no? Pwede gyud gihapon ka magpa-vaccine, okay? Ang amo lang tan-awon gyud na careful ta is if there's abnormal in your platelet count, okay? So mauna siya atuhang i-check gyud. Pero kung normal ra to nya, wala kay clotting problems, no? Bleeding, pero ang bleeding itself di sad na siya contraindication in itself, okay? So kung CS ra to, ang reason for your pagka-anemia na naabunuhan kag dugo, you can still receive the vaccine. Yes.
Thank you, Doc Pen.
Even if na after nabunuhan kag dugo, wala ay problema.
Thank you, Doc Pen. Would like to add, Doc Mai, or okay na to?
Okay na to.
Okay. Other question. According to Dr. Pen, there are only 3 kinds of body conditions that can't receive the vaccine for COVID. Among the three, I have no idea about the anaphylaxis. What is this for? Thank you.
Okay, so anaphylaxis, mauna siya gi-discuss po ni Doc Mai, ganiha, maybe Mai can add to that also. Anaphylaxis is a reaction yun na grabe, okay? Na ni-react na, ano siya, it's a form of adverse reaction yun, no? Na you can have, na ang manifestation ana is problema gyud sa airway, sa agianan sa hangin. So ang ma-feel sa pasyente murag na ay throat tightness or itching kanang magsugod siya, murag katul-katul niya, mo tighten siya, na di na siya ka-breathe, na di ka nakaginhawa, okay? Or pwede yun na makadungog pod ka ng grabe na tightness or wheezing sa imong airway, no? So, mauna siya ang anaphylaxis. You will know na ana siya kay grabe gyud siya, sudden and grabe, na di gyud ka ka-breathe, okay? So, only a few people can have such tendencies. Usually mauna sila ang grabe gyud ang history, no, sa allergies, na naa sila historically na nagka-anaphylaxis sila. They would know that. People who have this would know that, no? Kay they will not forget, no, kung ma-experience sila ana. So ma-relay na siya during the history taking, no? Kay before vaccination, ma-screen man tag pasyente, i-check man good imuhang profile, no? So apart sa mga questions sa pangutana dito, i-discuss si Doc May ganiha is kanang history nimo of allergies or severe anaphylaxis. Okay, so ma-ask yun na, ma-elicit yun na. So if na ako ana na condition, then kana bantayanan gyud kag maayo kay we wouldn't know man good unsay mo reaction sa vaccine until you get it, diba? So mao na. So I hope that cleared the idea about anaphylaxis.
Yeah, it's very rare actually. So kung matiman na time na naglisod yun kag ginhawa tungod kay nagtumar ka og some tambal, no, then that's it. You don't forget having an anaphylactic attack.
Thank you for the answer, Doc Pen and Doc Mai. I think the other question that we have regarding sa nabaylain pa na side effect, Doc, aside sa na-mention especially for the elderly.
Effects sa vaccine?
Side effects.
You mean? Side effect. So the usual side effect na among ganiha, no, is lang mga mild raman. Okay? So pwedeng gamay na hilanat, no, gamay na sakit, local effect na sakit diri, o kanang usahay maka-feel og murag gamay pamaol, okay? Mao na siya. Usually mild raman nya mo less than a day, okay na. That's the common, no, regardless of your age.
And I will add na anyon. Actually, ang mas maka-feel anang mga side effect historically, usually ang mga mas batanon. So not so much nga the elderly.
Interesting point no, Doc Mai, na mas mo kansya sa mga batanon mo effect siya. Naatay interesting question po, Doc Mai, na unsa day comment di mo sa Sinovac na I think na ay ingon na they rather get vaccinated basta dili lang Sinovac. What's your take about it?
All the vaccines are good. I actually got Sinovac, and I think Dr. Pen, I'm not sure if all my family members who have been vaccinated have received Sinovac. Kay unsay available lagi, pakwaon gyud nako dayon. So mao may naging unang available, so may na lang naging available gyud siya sa tanan. So I'm grateful for whatever vaccine there is.
That's true. I also had Sinovac. And you know what? I would like to share a new recent information that was released, no? Kay sa una daghan gyud kanang questions nga about Sinovac, kay wala man good kanang published study sa una pagsugod, no? Di pa siya na share gyud sa kanang sa China, okay, what are the outcomes, ana. Pero sa other countries, ano naman good, they publish the findings, okay, the outcomes of the patient, no? And recent findings, published studies shows na nindot bitaw ang performance, no? The real world findings sa outcome ng patients who are vaccinated with Sinovac, no? Dagko gyud siya tabang in preventing severe. In fact, diba, in one of the hotspots in the world, di ba, sa Brazil, di ba? Oo, daghan yun na, di ba, nagkaano sila surge na they really increased their vaccination rollout, no? So dako gyud tabang ang Sinovac in those areas. But of course, all vaccines naman good maka-prevent og severe, okay, regardless of the brand. Okay, but we want to dispel how should we call that? Ano ba, against Sinovac? Oo, the hesitancy. Yes. Or so prejudice ba? I hope it's not prejudice.
Yeah, so you're saying, Doc May and Doc Pen, that kung naay vaccine available, dito mo pili kung saan na vaccine because all of them can be effective no for us. Sakto ba
Yes,
Doc Dr.
mao.
Correct. Correct.
No need to be
Yes.
choosy.
No need to be choosy. Okay. Sige, noted on that, Doc
Correct.
Mai. We have other question. Doc, can you clarify the circulating issues about the vaccine being connected with ADE? Kasi ADE ganito?
ADE.
Yes.
ADE. Sa ADE, adverse
Drug
Yeah.
drug event. Siguro, adverse
Dra-
drug event siguro. Oo.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
so
ever
these are
you're
terms AE, adverse event, or SAE, serious adverse event. These are terms that we use in clinical trials, no? Na pagka kaning mga vaccine, of course, they are undergoing clinical trials. Okay, pasabot under a context of a rigid research design ba para kay bawo gyud ta maka-generate gyud tag objective efficacy rate, no, sa mga vaccine, how effective they are in a controlled setup. Okay, but then of course because of the pandemic, no, there's really a need, no, an urgent need, no, to prevent the further spread. That's why gigrantan og EUA na emergency utilization authorization, emergency use authorization kanina mga selected vaccines that shows good good profile, okay, or acceptable safety profile based sa ongoing clinical trials. Okay? So kanang mga kita na nakadawat og vaccine under EUA dili ta part sa clinical trial, okay? But there are certain groups na na-appeal sa clinical trial and i-monitor gyud nila ang what they call the AE, adverse event. So anything gyud na mahitabo na whether related or not, i-record na sila. Okay, they need to see, no? Okay, for part of the safety measures to check all the possibilities. That's why all AEs or adverse events are recorded. The serious ones, those that result to hospitalization, okay, worsening of condition, or even death. These are called SAE, serious adverse event. These are all recorded also and studied by the data safety team. Na data safety team each clinical trial and see kung na by red flag. Kaya if na ay red flag, they will stop the clinical trial and they will give recommendations, no, to the pharma company producing it, okay, and to the to the different countries na administrators, no, the different health departments, okay, to make a decision whether to continue that particular vaccine or not. So it's really important to record all the if that is what is being asked, no, the adverse events. And i-study yan, ha? Hindi yan basta-basta kino-connect. It has to be really, there's a team that studies. In fact, isa-isa po yan per case, no? Kung is there a causality. And there are different criteria for causality. So hindi kasi masyado ng ito another session siguro, another webinar.
Usahay man good.
That, no? So my point is talagang aaral po yan ng mabuti. No?
Usahay man
Yes,
good ba?
Mike.
Basta may mahitabo, mapasangin lang dayon ang bakuna. And actually, it just happened by chance, no? So dili man tanan na nahitabo after the vaccination is because of the vaccine.
So it's a good thing for a reminder, Doc Pa and Doc Peno, na if there are mga stories na tungod daw sa vaccine, we can possibly ask for more question and to verify it. If tungod ba yun sa vaccine ang katon hitabo na case, no, may be na ay severe na side effects. So we should not be following automatically the mga false, mga fake news, no? You always verify. I think we go for the last two
And if you are
questions.
unsure, sorry, may add lang, no? If you are unsure,
Yes.
worried, or concerned about what you are feeling na you think related, no? You can always call the hotline, no? There's a hotline there in your vaccination card. Kung merong, you saw the picture kanina, no? There is a sample of the picture. And down at the bottom are four numbers, no? The hotlines of DOH where you can report anything, any feeling mo kung related sa vaccine, you can always you are encouraged to report actually. Yes.
The encourage of reporting. I think we can go for the last two questions, Doc Pen and Doc Pen. I think interesting question to about what if a person who is going to have the vaccine did not know that she or he has a cancer? Maybe Doc Mai or
The when I will still hope that they get the cancer treated right away, but the vaccine will have nothing to do with it really.
It's actually more of the treatment, Chard, no? Kasi yung, di ba, cancer, we give pwede maka-immunosuppress, makasuppress sa imong immune system. So that's why those who are on treatment, chemotherapy ba, what I mean, okay? Pwede na siya maka-affect the way we respond to the vaccine. That's why na siya timing, okay? Kanang mga in such cases, we would need to coordinate with your attending oncologist. No, when is the best time for you to receive the vaccine if you are ongoing chemotherapy? Now, as for the cancer na di wakay ba, which is unfortunate if that's the case, no, naman sad tay signals, no, i-check man sad ang pasyente, no, screen ka before ka iba-vaccine, no, i-check ka kung naa ba kay whatever bleeding or whatever diha, no, kay mao man to atong kung naa kay let's say clotting problems or whatever, no, kay at least man good ang mga patients with cancer, there are ways, no, to check. Okay, so still we want all patients as much as possible, all patients vaccinated, because it's even worse, no? If you have cancer, hindi mo alam may cancer ka pala and you have COVID, it's worse. Okay, the expected outcome may be even much worse. So we want to prevent that.
Thank you, Doc Mai and Doc Pen. I think we can go for the last question. We have so much question right now, but as much as we can possibly collate this, no, and come up with material that they can look into for regarding their question. For the last question, good afternoon. How long ang effectivity ng vaccine? Is it lifetime or do we need to have vaccinated on a certain period of time?
Sige. Sa ngayon kasi, we don't recommend boosters, no, at this time because there is no evidence that the people who have been vaccinated have waning immunity. Now, we have to remember that the vaccines are relatively new. So most of our data is a little more than 6 months old. Although we can review that once the patients who were given vaccines as part of clinical studies in last year, they're doing that. But so far, Mango, there's no indication that there's waning immunity already. So personally, while I am prepared for future boosters, kay mao man gyud, di ba? Kunwari, masamad ka, kinahanglan ka matagaan og anti-tetanus, bisag natagaan na kanong bata ka. No? So I am prepared for boosters in the future, but for now, there's no evidence that we need them yet.
I agree with Doc Mai. No, we don't know yet ang answer to that question, how long will it last? It's still under study. So, ano pa siya? Pina-follow up pa ng observational studies. Okay, but don't worry. Of course, the WHO and other health bodies are really very concerned about that as well, so that they can give proper recommendations when the appropriate enough evidence arises.
Yeah, so I think ang importante karon Doc Mai, Doc Pen kay tanaw no na how can we possibly have the courage to answer the invitation to be vaccinated, and I hope that this session, this webinar help us to also see a different perspective, see a different lens, and hopefully get enough and more information, and hopefully lead us to say yes to that call, not to be vaccinated. And indeed, it takes a community, it takes an informed and engaged community to combat COVID-19. And on that note about community, thank you very much, Doc Mai and Doc Pen, for sharing your time, your expertise this afternoon. It's always a surreal moment, no, that we have like you doctors who are frontliners, yet naihugot Doc Mai ba Doc Pen na hopefully what you have seen before, what you've experienced before would be addressed, and by having this kind of conversation and dialogue, we get to send the right information and right understanding about vaccines. Thank you very much, Doc Pen and Doc Mai. And for sure, in behalf of our thousands of viewers, we reached even up to 6,000. I believe that our viewers gained a lot of insights and about vaccine. And to our viewers na may mga pangutana, we will surely capture all your questions, and in the future we can create a material maybe in the future to also address that. And to honor your time, to our viewers, to honor your time and to also honor your time, we have something in store for you. So we'll be announcing the winners of our raffle draw, and you can only claim your prize if they have your proof that you have attended the webinar. So here are the winners of our raffle draw. Allow me to present. So we will first announce the first registrant of our webinar. So our Miss Marcia Lynn Abiliana, Nurse 2 from Negros Oriental. Congratulations, you are one of our winners. You received 5,000 worth of GCash or Casa Gurordo Museum Shaft gift check. So congratulations, Miss Marcia. And our lucky winners raffle draw, we have Rotilio Enoferio from Head Teacher 1 of the Ed Division Negros Oriental, Sir John Lino Iliga, Teacher 2 of Cebu Province, and Sherry Guerra from Teacher 1 of DepEd Bohol Province. If you notice na ay number sa ubos, that means kay it's a random ni nagipili. So di lang ako ang nagpili adi kasi doon sa kundugan. So these are actually randomly selected. So congratulations, and you receive. And last set of winners, we have Josephine Mabilog, Mercy Sarabia, and Nino J. Villaver, all coming from DepEd. So take note, it's all for the people na ang naka-appeal sa raffle draw are people who register. So not only from DepEd, by the way, just so happen na ang DepEd mo yung nakapili. So we'll be contacting all of the 6 winners that we have. And again, just prepare for your proof that you have completed and attended our webinar. So it's a way for us to remind that learning and serving our community and even combating COVID-19 is fun, no? And that's our way with Rafi also. Yeah, so congratulations again. And before we end, we'll be posting our evaluation form so you can receive your certificates. Because of the bulk of the registrants, please give us 5 days. So friendly reminder, kindly ensure that you have inputted the correct complete name and email. So please ensure that you have inputted the complete name and the correct email also. And then we'll close the evaluation form after 2 hours. So, and I'd like again to thank all our partners who are here watching this afternoon, and hope that you'll join us next month. So thank you again, DepEd Region 7, especially to Dr. Salde, to our Dr. Rog, and Dr. Tom Pastor. Thank you very much for coordinating with us, and also our other partners flashed here in our screen. Thank you very much. And so in line with Rafi's vision of touching people, shaping the future, we hope that our session today has made you more aware of what getting the vaccine means for us during this pandemic and how we can move forward confidently into the next month. Thank you so much for joining, and remember, stay safe.
Mura daw kog monster na nagsulob sa akong mask. Fine, whatever, wala ko na bother. Kay ang doktor na ang nag-ask